tarot cards are often the first step and basis for a seeker of metaphysical knowledge, like you, to discover your forever path. That could be astrology, numerology, healing arts, or any other spiritual interest you discover along the way. Elaine Ireland is not only a teacher of tarot, she is a mentor who supports you and will be there for you. Visit www.ElaineIrelandTarotMaster.com now and discover how Elaine's mentoring, tarot card and psychic readings, tarot card classes, and more help you to grow into the true being you are meant to be. Welcome to Conversations with the Ancients, where you're about to discover a whole different world than the one that, up until now, you've believed you're familiar with. World-renowned metaphysicist, practicing psychic and tarot teacher Elaine Ireland invites you on a journey where you'll hear voices from the past, interviews with some of the greatest metaphysicians you've never heard of, because in their time, they needed to move with stealth. You'll also meet today's spirit mediums, healers, and others who will show you a side of the paranormal you've never seen before. Be sure you visit our website at conversationswiththeancients.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, hear the words of metaphysicians who blazed the trail. You're not in jail, thanks to them.
Hi, this is Elaine Ireland with Conversations with the Ancients, but look at that pretty face. She is not ancient. She's just highly trained and highly experienced, and her name is Cindy, C-I-N-D-Y, Hallett. Tell me if I said that right.
Yes.
Hallett?
Hallett.
Hallett, H-A-L-L-E-T-T. Hi, Cindy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
I'm excited because entity removal has always fascinated me. It's to me, and correct me, explain it. To me, entities are things that are attached but not part of our spirit. Are they invasive into the physical body, or are they just attached?
There's all kinds of different ones, and they work all kinds of different ways. So if you kind of ask, what do mammals eat?
Oh, whoops.
You're kind of getting into a broad subject there. I work primarily with external entities. External entities are not supposed to be on you, okay? They are parasites. And this is what I can work with. There are something called internal entities, which I run into a lot. And people think they have external entities, but it's not. It's actually internal entities, and those are emotionally based. The reason I can't work with those is because they are emotionally based, and I'm not an emotional doctor. I am a spiritual doctor. I am the entity doctor. So I work with the external entities, and there's all kinds of different ones. They love to get into your energy field. Some of them are malevolent, so they're bad, they're evil. They want you to feel bad because they feed off of your negative energy. Others we have with us all our lives. They're called angels, they're called guides. Those we don't want to get rid of. Those belong to us. They're our spiritual team, and those get fed off of our positive energy. So if you're walking around thinking, isn't that a beautiful day? Look at that tree, look at the garden over here, and you're giving off all this beautiful, wonderful energy, you're feeding your angels, and you're feeding your life, and you're putting the energy that you want back. And that's important. If you walk around all day and say, I can't believe that guy cut me off. And do you know what they said to me at the lunch counter? And I can't believe how this person treated me. And they were just mean. What energy are you putting out now? Is that the energy you want back? Plus, you're feeding the bad guys. When you put out negative energy like that, you're a smorgasbord. Everybody's going to run over to you and go, ooh, yum. Let's hop on this guy. He doesn't feel good. Or this lady, she's really nasty today. So we get fed a lot. So those are primarily the basic kind of entities. Those are the bad entities. There are also entities called lost souls. Some people call them ghosts. They're people that have left their bodies and they're wandering around trying to find their way back to the light, back to their soul group, back to their journey, plan their next incarnation, on their next list of lessons. but for whatever reason, so they aren't able to go into the light and find their way. So those I work with as well. They're not trying to hurt anybody. They're not trying to be a trouble. But let's face it, you get 400 or 500 people standing in your living room, you're gonna know it. They don't mean any harm. They're not there to hurt anything. But that's just too many, isn't it? Even 120. So those are the kind of entities that I work with. And then there's several more types that I don't run into very often. But when I do, they are difficult to identify, sometimes difficult to work with. And what I'm finding lately is that, especially with the bad guys, the ones I call underworlds, they have bosses, and sometimes those bosses are extremely difficult to identify. It's almost like, imagine in the back of your neighborhood, there's a hill and it goes down into this ravine, and this ravine always has kind of this fog over it. It's not solid. There's nothing physical there. It's just like this hue or this mist. That can be a negative entity, and those are hard to find. And that's what they've been teaching me lately. That's been my latest lessons, is those things. And sometimes I'm sorry.
Who's they? Who's they?
Oh, Spirit. Spirit teaches me all this stuff. And it's like, how do you learn this? Well, you kind of get into it, and Spirit goes, okay, so what are you going to do with this? What are you going to do with this? And I feel like I'm 3 years old, and they're my parents, and they're standing behind me, the arms folded, their big old foot tapping away, and they're saying, okay, Cindy, what are you going to do with this? How are you going to fix this? Now, I know they're not going to let me drown, right? They're not going to let me get hurt. I know they're right there with me, but it's up to me to figure it out. And they allow me to do so. They allow me to make my mistakes. They allow me to have my successes. And they kind of monitor me as parents will, Think of watching your kids when they're toddlers or young, very young. And you're saying, okay, how are you going to figure this out? How are you going to learn this? When I started learning originally from a teacher of mine, monitor me as parents will, Think of watching your kids when they're toddlers or young, very young. And you're saying, okay, how are you going to figure this out? How are you going to learn this? When I started learning originally from a teacher of mine, and then a teacher of hers, and then Spirit took over, and they teach me what I need to know. They let me know. And a lot of times it's interesting, because I'll get into something, I'm like, okay, what is this? I feel something there, and that's how I kind of tell. I can feel, or I can smell. I can kind of feel the energy going, okay, there's something there. This is not clear. But we're not clear right now. And then when I figure out what it is and I clear it, the energy goes, shh. So that's how I can figure out if there's something there. But sometimes I get into this, okay, Spirit, there's something here. And they're like, yes. Because you can only ask yes and no. You cannot ask who, what, when, where, why, or how, which a lot of people want, but you can't ask those. They won't answer you. So it's like, okay, do I know what this is? No. Okay, I don't know what it is. What do I do with it? Can I clear it? Yes. Okay. Well, we've gotten that far. So something you have something here. I don't know what it is. I can clear it. So how would I go about doing that? Okay. And then I start with the trial and error kind of stuff. You can ask Spirit, would this work? Can I clear it the same way I clear this thing? Or it's going to take a while? It's going to take, an hour. It's going to take a month. What's going to happen here? And that's how I discovered a lot of things. And when I check, if you were to have me check you for entities, I would go through a big long list, a huge long list. Some things I know how to do, but I haven't actually encountered. Other things I only encounter once, I would say once every 4 or 5 years. Other things I'm just learning. Other things
I'm sorry, why do you think these entities exist? And how did they form themselves?
Well, why do angels exist? I mean, why do mammals exist?
But the norm, we're shown from childhood an imagery of an angel.
Okay.
But we're not shown a picture of a negative entity other than perhaps a devil energy. But not all entities are going to look like that, probably. No more than all angels are going to look exactly the same. But why do you think there's not do they look like a puff of smoke? Do they have a form? Do they look like you referred to the word ghost a while ago, and a lot of times we see a form, a
Okay.
person or an animal, or so do our entities together like that? Or they
Well,
hanger honors?
Klingons, right? Okay, so because we live in the three-dimensional, and because we have no other reference point other than the three-dimensional, because we've never been taught anything else, and B, this is where we live, so this is what we know. Everybody tries to three-dimensionalize everything. I had a client one time and I said, you have 126 lost souls on you. He said, where?
Yeah,
I said,
probably.
are you getting three-dimensional on me? Because let's face it, we have an auric field. We have an energy field that goes all the way around us. It's about arm's length. Healthy energy field's about arm's length. It goes all the way around you and down past your feet. So, and people have a lot of trouble. Well, that's the ground. You can't go past my feet. It's like, actually, it's energy, because energy has no limitations. And people think, well, I live in an apartment and this is my apartment, and that guy over there, they've got entities. They wouldn't go into my apartment because I got a wall there. It's like, oh, no. Nah, that's not right. I had another client who lived in a condo, very fancy condo in Florida, very expensive. And his upstairs neighbor got drunk every weekend and called in all these negative entities. Monday morning, got up, went to work, and the negative entities are like, okay, we're bored. Where are we going to go? And every Monday night, I got a call. And he's like, they're here. They're here. It's like, yeah, sure enough, they are. And a lot of times you can see them kind of, it looks like a flickering just outside your peripheral vision. A lot of people are going to go, yeah, I know that one. That can be an entity, because that's how he saw them. And everybody sees them a little differently. Now, the way I describe angels, everybody has a group of angels that are attached to them. Okay, they're assigned to you. They are your angels. They are here to keep you on your soul contract as best they can. Now, we do have free will, so we can do whatever we want to. But the more you stick to your soul contract, the better things go. I have people call me and say, nothing's going right. I don't know what's going on. It's like, honey, you're off your path. You're off your soul contract. But they get fed or paid off of our, well, we talked about that, the good emotions. I describe these angels as like, think of a window screen with filaments that go horizontally and vertically, right? And let's say each one is an angel. Each of those filaments is an angel. And let's say something's happening. We lose an animal, or we have a car accident, or something happens that we're upset and we need more angels. Our screen gets denser. So there's more filaments in the screen. Okay, more angels have come to us to help us through our trauma, whatever we need. And then we calm down, everything goes back to normal. Our screen goes back to its regular density. We think of angels as these long hair, barefoot, flowing gowns with the big wings, and that's fine. We can identify with them however we want to. But again, think of them also as the window screen filament, because again, they're just energy. Now, here's the tricky part, and I know you're going to talk about this with other people too. We are energy, okay? We cannot be destroyed. We cannot die. Our bodies can die, and our bodies will die, just like when you have a plant and it does a flower and that flower dies, and it does another flower and that flower dies, okay? So each of those flowers, let's say, is a different lifetime with different lessons to be learned, different cast of characters, you're a different personality. And so you get all these different past life things going on. And so your soul, you will never die. Your body will die. You will not. Okay. So again, we get caught up in the three-dimensional. Now, a lot of species that we know of are not three-dimensional, or in the three-dimensional, they have no bodies. And a lot of them are here to study us to see if they want to have bodies.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we can hurt as well as be happy, right? We can be grumpy. We can be happy. We can put out the good energy. We can put out bad energy. We can do whatever we want to because we have free will. Now they're looking at that going, do we really want to do that? And what I find is with these species that are not in the physical are omnipotent. They are all attached. So think of Star Trek, the Borg, where everybody knows what everyone else is thinking. It's one mass consciousness. Okay.
Right.
Or an anthill. Sometimes they say an anthill. There's one mass consciousness. So the non-physical ones tend to have one mass consciousness. So like I couldn't keep a secret from you because you would know in the mass consciousness what I was planning or what I had done or whatever secret I was trying to keep.
I'm going to interrupt you here, and this is meant to be humorous, so bear with me. Psychics have a hard time finding partners to stick with them because the partners that don't understand how psychic works and the ethics of psychics are afraid that all of their secrets will be known, and perhaps they can't cheat, or they don't want their partner to know everything, like the surprise that's coming at Christmas. Anyway, I have to laugh about that every now and then. It's not true because we really try, at least most of us try not to be invasive. But there are times when we do. We can pick up a box and go, "Oh, I know exactly what this is," and it spoils the surprise. Anyway, yeah, mass
Yeah.
consciousness, it gets in the way.
It does. It does. And that kind of brings up another point. I think Elaine is doing a really good job of covering is just like when you're building a house, you have to have all these different professions. You have to have the plumber and the electrician and the framer and the roofer, and you have to have all the metaphysical realm. It's the same thing. Elaine is a psychic. I guess everybody's psychic. Let's face it. I don't care
everybody.
what you say. You are psychic too. Yes, you are.
Yeah.
And
Listener, yes, you are.
yes, you are. Everybody's psychic. But so I focus on entities. Other people focus on Akashic records. Other people focus on reading past or future. Other people focus on, numerology or astrology or different things. So it takes a village. This whole metaphysical world is filled with different professions, different niches, and mine happens to be the entities. I'm kind of where you start on your journey to make sure you're clear and you can grow, and then you can go on and study whatever you want to study, shamanism or angelic or whatever you want to do. So,
that's an interesting statement that you just made. This is where you start.
This is where you start.
And I really respect that, but you have to keep it up over a period of time. So do you suggest every now and then, whether you feel like it, whether something's bothering you or not, that we check in with your expertise and say, okay, what's hanging around me? Is there anything? I have the feeling that there is something all the time hanging around. Is that true? Whether you try to be positive or not?
Absolutely. I mean, again, it's kind of like saying I don't want to have any pollen in my yard, or I don't want to have any insects on my property. You can't do that. We have angels, we have guides, we have fairies, we have gnomes, we have all deceased loved ones. We have things just wandering through. We have all these different spiritual beings that are around us all the time. They're not all negative. Very few are negative. Think of the insects in your yard. You don't want to get stung or bit. But other than that, they all have a job. It's a case of you kill all the earthworms in your yard, you are not going to have a yard, right? You're going to have any irrigated soil. We all have a function. Yeah, we have things all around us all the time. And if people say, I want absolutely no spirits around me, then you had better, I don't know what you do, because even when you check out your spirit, right? I mean, they're going to be around all the time. Now, what I do is I tell my clients, I stand by my clients and I stand by my work. So if you get a clearing with me and what you do is you check back every 90 days. And if you need what I call a tune-up, you have something else on you, then it's a low cost. It's not a full price clearing. If you don't have anything on you, then we don't charge you, and we just start your 90 days counting over again, so that you don't lose that discounted tune-up rate just because you stayed clear. You shouldn't be punished for staying clear, right? But there are some people who have something in their past that kind of pulls in that negative energy. They themselves in this incarnation are not negative people. They're not bad people. They don't do anything wrong. But have you ever known anybody who gets sick every August? Every August they get bronchitis. I don't care. If it's August, they're going to get bronchitis, or they keep getting a cold. And so their immune system is compromised. Now, you can have a spiritually compromised immune system as well, where things cop on you and go, oh, yum, let's go over here, right? So we don't want to do that. But if you do that, the more you stay clear, just like the more you can avoid the cold, the stronger your immune system builds, and the better you are. People think also, this is an interesting twist on that one. The higher your vibration goes, and your vibration is kind of how high, how much you can hear, how connected you are with spirit. I'm sure you're going to have somebody specialize in that one. That's actually what I wrote my book on, how to raise your vibration.
Okay, wait. You wrote a book.
I did.
How to raise your vibration.
It's
Available
called
where?
Becoming the Entity Doctor is the book. A Guide to Spiritual Awakening. They think the higher your vibration goes, the more free you are of entities. And it could be the opposite. It could be the higher your vibration goes, the more attention you get from both sides. And if the dark side...
What happened? You okay?
I think a cat fell down the stairs.
Uh-oh. Do you need to go check?
I think it was a toy. The dog's checking on it. It's like...
We don't want any injured animals.
No, if they were injured, they'd say something. Then, so the higher your vibration goes, the more attention you get from both sides. And if the dark side thinks they can squelch you and keep your vibration low and not have you as a high vibration light worker threat to them, they will bother you. And if they do bother you, you call somebody like an entity doctor and get some help. Don't stop with your vibration. Your vibration is very important. And again, you may have work that you don't know you're supposed to do. Like we all discover sometimes later in life that there's you have an assignment. So just to let you know, high vibrational does not mean free of entities necessarily. Okay.
Negative energies.
Yeah. Negative energies.
Negative energies.
Yes.
Do negative energies teach us something in a way? Or they just hanger-oners and suckers?
I don't know that they intentionally teach us something, but again, if somebody's playing with negative entities and they're like, what do I do? What do I do? How do I keep these off of me? And I tell them about the putting out the positive. I send out a prayer. It's also in my book. It's a daily protection prayer, it's called. And you put yourself in a bubble and you fill that bubble with the fluffy, sweet white cream of love. And you walk around in this bubble of, let's say, love whipped cream all day.
I like that image. It's good.
Think of something trying to get through. It really can't do that. They may unintentionally teach us to change our outlook, change our attitude, change the energy that we're putting out so that we do receive back the energy that we're desiring.
Okay. I want to shift back. Now that we've talked about what you do, tell us how you got there. I met you at psychic fairs, and I don't remember which one, but probably one here in Austin to begin with. I met you as a lady of light is how I remembered you, because as a vendor, you were primarily dealing with Himalayan lamps, which public, if you don't know what those are, they are Himalayan salt. And they can be presented raw in a raw form, or they can be carved into something pretty, like a flower or a Buddha or whatever. She had a beautiful collection of them, along with some other pretty crystals and sometimes a handful of jewelry or such. But I always thought of her as the Lady of Light. And sure enough, her website is www.comestandinthelightwithme.com. And I thought, say that again.
www.comestandinthelight.com.
.com, not with me, but .com. Okay, so I thought, how appropriate when she told me that, because that's how I viewed her. So what got you to the Himalayan lamps before all of this, or was that just a way to get in? Were you doing entity removal at the time? How did you get there? Who's the young lady named Cindy?
Okay. Well, the short answer is my angels. Got
okay.
Here's the long answer. Okay. My mother and I travel extensively internationally after my dad died in 2002. And we ended up going to to France, and we always took river boats because you go through the country and you take your hotel with you. You don't have to schlep bags. It's fabulous. So we were on a riverboat in France and going down the Seine, I think. And I met the captain, and I said to him, well, you need to dance with me. I'm a dancer. You need to dance with me. And he looked at me like, sure. Like, okay, this lady's nuts, right? there was a captain's dinner, and he was male, and the hotel manager was male, so they needed a female couple to sit at the captain's table. And I just happened to be stretching on the deck that morning, and guess what? We got an invitation.
Okay.
Everybody was I was leaving, and all the sailors were in the captain in the what is it cabin. They're like, it's like, okay, this is weird. We had dinner together. Now the captain spoke very little English, and I speak no French. We were we had dinner together, and he came and he danced with me. He wouldn't dance with anybody else. He only danced with me, and he awoken something within me, and I don't know what it was. And so I got back to the States. And I'm happily married. I've been married a long time, and I am not interested in having an intercontinental bilingual affair. Okay. Just not on my radar there. So I'm like, what is going on with me? I can't get this guy out of my mind. I don't know what's going on. So I went to the Body, Mind, Spirit Expo, which is not something I would normally do. And I found a reader that wasn't busy at the time. And I said, can you help me here? And she said, sure. What do you want? And I said, well, I can't get this guy out of my mind. What's going on? And she said, you were lovers in a former life, and you were killed, and you left him with abandonment issues. And when you were on the other side, you made an agreement that when you hit middle age, he would come back and wake you up. And, oh, by the way, I do classes. And I said, oh, really? Because I live way west of town. Where do you do classes? She was 2 miles from me.
Wow.
So she said, take your fingers, make scissors, and cut that cord that is between you and this captain at this time. And I said, does he feel the same way? And she said, maybe subconsciously, but no, not like this. So he did his job by waking me up and helping me find my first teacher. And I signed up for her classes, and I wasn't good. I mean, there were people in there going, yes, I can see it. They're wearing purple, and yeah. I'm like, okay, I think I see a triangle. No, it's a square. No, it's a triangle. No, it's a square. And I was not good. I mean, let's face it. But the secret is, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? That old joke, the tourist gets in the cab, is how do you get to Carnegie Hall? And the cabbie says, practice, 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 right?
Right.
So, okay. So as long as you practice, things start to open up. And there was a reason I was there. I didn't know what it was. Of course, my angels are going, no, you are going. I'm like, okay, whatever. And if you ever hear your angels insist upon something, never, ever try to logic yourself out of it. Well, that doesn't make sense because, don't do that. You will mess yourself over every time. The angels are telling you do it or don't do it. Listen, okay? And people will say, I don't know if I can hear my angels. Yes, you can. You've heard them all your life. They've always been there for you. So, from there, I took these classes, and then I went to the intermediate classes, and then I started to actually receive information. It was great. The very first time I did that, she had like, I don't know, 20 people in the class, and she'd bring one person in, and then we take turns reading this one person. Well, she brought in her mother, and she's like, okay, everybody just kind of tune in, see what you can get. And I see this cat, the silhouette of a cat, like with flowers in the background. It's like, wow, what was that? Okay, interesting. So it was my turn, and I looked at the mother and I said, do you have a cat? And she burst into tears. I'm like, oh my God. As Elaine knows, as a psychic, if somebody bursts into tears, you are doing your job. You're getting it right. You hit something there, okay? But the first time it happens, it's a little unnerving. It's like, oh my God, you don't know what I just said. All I said was, do you have a cat? And my teacher explained, well, she had a cat. Her name was Emily, and she's recently disappeared. And so I got this whole reading on the cat, how it was ready to go. It said goodbye. It went off into the woods. It just curled up, and it just let go, and it evolved. It just ascended into, the heavens. And I said there was no pain. There was no fear. There was no violence. It was a beautiful, beautiful death. And we can have beautiful deaths. We often do. Okay. It's simply a transition. She sat and cried the whole time. I felt really bad about that. But that's why you have tissues on your table. Do you keep tissues on your table, Elaine?
All the time.
All the time, yeah. Because, tears are not necessarily a bad thing. But the first time it happens, it's kind of weird. So then I went and studied with a couple other teachers. And then a lot of the times, and I will tell you, if you can get a group that are learning kind of at the same pace, and you can bounce ideas off of each other. It's amazing. You can learn more from your colleagues than you can sometimes from your teachers, and just having that bond and that calling somebody up and go, I didn't sleep at all last night. They're like, I didn't either. Third one's going, I didn't either. It's like, okay, it's not us. It's something coming in from the universe. There's like all solar flares. There's all kinds of, alignments of the planets, and all of these energies affect us. Okay. Elaine, are you going nuts? Because between the eclipses and the solar flares and the politics and the volcanoes and the hurricanes, the energy is just like lately is
I have to say that every morning when the cats wake me up, usually now about 4 o'clock to be fed, used to be 7, right on the button. One of my first thoughts is, what am I going to hear on the news this morning?
okay.
I usually listen to Good Morning America, free plug, and then I'm done with TV for the day. For the day, I'm done. I get up. Mike teases me because he says I've got a spring on my butt because I'll fix a cup of coffee, usually heat it up 3 times before I actually finish it, because I'll sit down, take that sort of thing. But my concern these days is the surprise of what the day is going to bring, because there's been so much destruction. Yes, and as a metaphysician, and I'm sure you've got your own opinion about all this and your own knowledge about what's going on, but Earth is going to be a little scary place until probably April of next year. And I'm not an astrologer. I've just gotten that over and over and over again. It's going to take until April to straighten everything out of 24. But you're right. It can be, I will wake up. Lately, I've been waking up, if I go to bed by 10:30, I'm waking up about 1, just enough to feel the temperature in the room. And then I'll drift back off to sleep. And then the cats will wake me up. I'll go back to bed. And then at 7, which has been what they trained me to do so long ago, I'm usually up. We're just wide awake. Yeah. So I get it. Yeah, I get it. And sometimes I'll think about other psychics. Somebody else will pop into mind. So I'll give them a call during the day or send them a text and say, you okay? What's going on with you?
Yeah, exactly. And they usually say, oh, I was just thinking about you, right?
Yeah.
So how many times have you made a call and they said, I was just thinking about you? That's the psychic part we were talking about. Everybody's like,
yes.
Everybody has it.
Everybody, in the old days, they called it survival skills.
Well, it's instinct. Yeah. But here's the deal.
Call it their gut.
And we've been doing it for so long. We think it's natural. We think it's second nature. We think it's not a gift at all. And it is. Feeling energy is a gift.
It is.
And we can all do it. We just take it for granted. It's kind of like hearing or smelling. It's second nature. It's part of our senses. But you intuit energy. Have you ever kind of rounded the corner and felt, ooh, danger here, and then you see somebody who's really mad?
Or you meet somebody, you go, oh, I think I need to keep that one at least 10 feet. Or, go into the other side of the room. Don't know why. Right. Or you meet people and you go, gosh, that's somebody I'd really like to know. Or you feel like you've known them forever. And
you probably have, because you probably had several lifetimes together. Yeah.
Okay, back to you.
Well, that happened to me and the captain, right? I mean, the captain.
Yeah.
Because we had the lifetime, at least that lifetime together. And so we were just kind of drawn to each other. No real explanation. I mean, anyway, so that's how I kind of got into it. And then spirit.
Why do you think it was entity removal and not astrology or numerology? Or as a metaphysician, for me, I'm a tarot master. Well, in the tarot cards, you've got color therapy, sound therapy, you've got seasons, you've got all the clairs, and you have everything, astrology, numerology, because there are assignments. All the major cards are assigned an astrology in it, and every card has a numerological meaning, because it's the 4 of, or the 5 of, the 10 of, or whatever. And I don't remove entities. You do, but you also are a light worker. And I view you as using light even when you don't know you're using it.
Right.
It's not like a switch you just turn on and off. Yes, your lamps, you can turn them on and off, but there's a light there that's almost you sold and are still selling Himalayan lamps, but that light will always be there with the clients who purchase them. It's like having a part of you in their environment. So I can't help but believe that selling the lamps, being a part of the lamps, plus Himalayan salt is a healing entity within itself, within themselves. And it doesn't matter what color the light is. You can put any colored little lamp in them, but most people use a neutral. To me, when somebody buys one of your lamps, they're taking your light with them, and they'll always be there.
I love that.
And I can't, and that's part of the entity, to me, that's part of the entity removal, is you interjecting your light almost in the middle of that person's energy bar and the entity that you're trying to remove.
Right.
Almost like your light is bright enough to make them go away.
Well, I've got similar answers to both of those questions. I was taking a class and I met a lady. When you take classes, sometimes they put you in groups and you read each other. And she looked at me and she said, "You need to remove entities." And I said, "Oh, remove entities?" I said, "What is that?" I said, "Ew." I said, "I want to be a medium, like I want to be a ballerina. I want to be a fireman." Right. And she said, "No." She said, this is what you're good at. You're good at removing entities. And I said, "Well, isn't that clearly the garbage collector of the metaphysical world?" And she said, "Well, that's what you do." I said, "Dang, yeah." All right. So that's kind of how that started. But she also said, "Look, I have this crystal that I'd love to light up, but I don't want an ugly cord. So can you invent a base that doesn't have a cord?" So actually my husband, who's a technician, a very handy guy, he invented a light base that you can put a crystal on, and it's a color. It doesn't change colors. Crystals don't like it when they change colors. I'll tell you that.
No.
Yeah, I walked up one time and this lady was, "Oh, look at my new crystal." And she had a plastic base that rotated and changed colors. And that crystal was like, "Oh, get me off of here. Oh my God, I don't like it." It was like, "Oh shoot, I'm not happy. This is not working out for me." So that's how we started. And then I said, "Well, we need to sell more than just light bases." And we said, "Well, let's sell Himalayan salt lamps." And so he was supposed to go to Tucson and buy some. And he's like, "Well, I'll just buy some lamps and come home." And I'm like, "Just lamps? Just salt lamps? Wait a minute. What?" And of course, he was helping me with the business, and he did a really good job. So I ended up going to Tucson. I bought Himalayan pink salt lamps. I bought selenite lamps, which are wonderful. And they work really well together because selenite is kind of the upper chakras, and Himalayan pink salt is of the earth. So the energies work very, very nicely. And I got some crystals. And we needed some crystals to display on the light bases anyway. So that's kind of how things started. And I wasn't into the services at the time. That developed a little bit later. So it started with the crystals. We started with affairs with the crystals. As a matter of fact, I've just started doing affairs with the services in the last year or so, just because I'm pretty successful without having to do affairs with the services for me. And people don't really get, what is an entity doctor? What do you do? Hang on, what's an entity? What's that all about? What are you talking about here? So again, this is not stuff we're taught. This is not stuff that's common knowledge, although we're working on it, huh?
Yeah, because entity, you say the word entity and people get instinctively scared.
Well, AI decides it's a governmental entity. How to remove your city.
Oh, Lord.
I don't do that. So you
said like services. There's a plural there. What else do you do?
Okay, so I started with Reiki, and in 2007, I had a very old dog, and my mother-in-law fell in my living room and broke her hip. Apparently, with mother-in-law, you break it, you bought it. So I wanted to do a Reiki, so I called the local Reiki person, and she said, "Well, I can do Reiki for your mother-in-law." And she said, "It's right hip, right?" I said, "Yes." I mean, so she could feel it. And I was amazed. Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. And she said, "By the way, I do classes." Great line. "By the way, I do classes." And so I went and took my Reiki 1 and 2 from her. And then a few years later, I took my Reiki 3, my master teacher. So I'm a Reiki master. I'm a Theta healer practitioner. I've taken Theta healing with, as you know, Ambika Longdecker. She's a great teacher on a lot of different subjects.
Okay, say her name again.
Ambika Longdecker. And
Okay.
she does theta healing, like amazing, amazing theta healer. She does all kinds of different healing modalities. And sometimes I have trouble swallowing. And if it goes on for long enough, it's an emergency call to Ambika, and she can actually clear it energetically. So she's
She and I have been trying for months to get her scheduled. And at the last fair, I brought my scheduling book, never could get to her table. And she was right across
you're
from
right across the hall from each other.
we were right across the aisle. And I'd look up and I was not particularly busy this last fair. And well, the fall fairs tend to do what we call vendor fairs because, which is great. And then January, the readers are swamped. And then the rest of the year, it's kind of whatever. Does what win. But she was busy. She's not particularly a vendor, but she was like selling a thing. Her talent is what she was busy. I could not get her scheduled. I'd get up to go over there and somebody would sit down.
Yeah. She does eye readings at the fairs. She'll read the iris in your eye and tell you about yourself, kind of like palmist, but she's an eye reader.
Amazing. And that's a science. That's an ancient science. Yeah.
Yeah, you see her with the magnifying glass looking in somebody's eye. It's so funny. It's she's a great lady. She's really, really good. And she does so many different things, same as a lot of us. I also do readings. I also do coaching and training. I do angel messages. So if you want to know what your angels are trying to tell you. And it's so funny because when I tune into somebody who's, especially the ones that are saying, my life isn't working, I don't know what's going on, I tune into their angels, and the first thing I hear is, they're not listening to me. They're not listening at all. They won't even pay attention. They don't know what's going on. And it's that poor angels are trying so hard to get you back on your path and get you the beautiful things that you deserve and that you want. And if you fight them, they don't know what to do. They're at a loss because, again, you have free will. You can do that if you want to. Why you want to do that? I'm not sure.
What you just said is really important, I think, for the public to understand that may not understand angels and their responsibilities. And certainly I can't speak for them. And a lot of people don't realize the power, if you want to call it that, and the abilities that we have as individual spirits. Most people think angels can make us do anything. Angels can get through to us if we're in danger, if we're this, if we're that. Why can't an angel get to us? They're so powerful in their own way.
Because we have free will.
Yeah. And we can ignore them.
We can ignore them. We can do whatever the heck we want to do. Kind of like the lifeguard. They're like, don't play with that. And we do it anyway. And we drown. Okay. I mean,
right. Right. And sometimes I think it's because we don't trust what we hear. That can't possibly be a spirit or angel trying to help me. I don't deserve that, or that's my imagination, or Sarah Reeves.
Imagination. Or it's not logical. This doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense. Just like I was thinking about taking the crystals. I'm having a sale on my crystals, by the way. And I was going to go to West Texas because they have a fair once a year, and those folks are very appreciative of that once a year fair. And I thought, well, if I go to West Texas, what's my fixed cost going to be? How much do I have to make to cover my expenses? You know, standard stuff you do in business. I'd start kind of ciphering in my head or writing it down, and I heard in the back of my head, don't go, don't go, don't go. Now, we might have said, hey, if I go, I can sell a lot of crystals. I can make a lot of money. I can divest myself. I can reduce my inventory. I can turn those into inventory dollars. That's logic. Okay. What did I listen to? Don't go. The last time I went to the West Texas Fair, what happened? I was logging on in the morning at the beginning of the fair, and I found out my iPad was too old. It couldn't be upgraded, and so I couldn't log on to my payment program. I can't take credit cards. Well, that's not going to work. So my assistant ran across the parking lot, thank goodness, to Sam's and got me a new iPad. And then on the way back, there was there was a lady there who was supposed to do services and have a little bit of crystals, and she ended up bringing 7 tables of crystals when she didn't pay for 7 tables of crystals. So that wasn't cool. And then on the way back, all of a sudden, with a car loaded full of, rocks, my car starts doing this in a construction zone, and the check engine light comes on. I'm 40 miles from the town, and I have to pull over and behind a convenience store, and we have to wait 2 hours for AAA to tow us back. And it turned out to be a tire. I never would have thought it was a tire, but evidently something happened in the belts all anyway. And then we had to spend an extra night in a hotel because we couldn't get home. So it was extremely expensive and it was extremely inconvenient, stressful, and everything else, as you can imagine. Spirit says, don't go. Don't go. I don't care what the reason is. Don't go.
You know, they kept you off the road.
Yeah.
Spirit kept. I can't help but wonder what you might have been involved with the further away from a good source of people to help you.
Exactly.
At least that happened only 40 miles away from the folks that are listening. She's referring to Midland, Odessa, which is another form of desert. You get to a certain place and there's nothing for many, 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 many miles. And Odessa and Midland are not very far from each other. What, 30, 45 minutes, really? And it's a straight shot. You get on a road and it's straight shot. But it can be real scary. The last time I was out there were not many lights on the highway. And when you leave Odessa or Midland, you have a long way to go before you get to a civilized city coming back to the Austin area. So, folks, it can be really scary. So
Yes.
The fact that it happened only 40 miles or so was a good thing
Yes.
for it to happen.
Yes. And that's another thing is
now?
learning to count your blessings, because I'm going to tell tales on myself, and this may be disgusting, but I'm sorry. I just got shingles. Okay. You can hear how
Ouch.
painful and how difficult they are and how horrible they are. Oh my God, you got shingles. And I had them at the last fair, so I was kept wearing long sleeves. I got them on the back of my leg and my arm. I could have had them on my face. I could have had them inside me. I could have had them all kinds of really indelicate places that would be really, really uncomfortable. Plus, they weren't that bad for me. Thank goodness, you know. I mean, they itched, they hurt a little bit. I was uncomfortable, but I wasn't like. So I am so glad, A, I know what shingles are like. B, I know how to treat them. C, I didn't get them anywhere that was a problem, anywhere I couldn't handle. I mean, I had some uncomfortable nights, but okay, that's all right. This is a lesson. And you know what my lesson was from this? I learned how to take my consciousness and put it up at the ceiling and go, okay, I'm leaving my body down here because it just itches. And I have these nails that will take off skin. And so I was very, very careful not to itch. So it was discipline. It was learning to distance yourself. It was learning to control your body. It was there. So these are the blessings that I got from this horrible disease. And it didn't last very long because I didn't put negative energy into it. I could have done, oh my God, I've got shingles. Oh no, not shingles. Oh, they itch so bad. Oh, they hurt so bad. What am I going to get from that? More of the same, right? I don't want that. I don't want that at all. So I chose the other route. It was a test for me. Spirit was testing me, going, okay, what you can do with this, Cindy? Huh? What you can do with it? Okay, I'm going to be positive. I'm going to be appreciative of where they landed, not in my eyes, because they can make you go blind. Or people say if you get them on the inside of you, the doctors can't figure out what it is, but it just hurts like crazy. I lucked out, folks. I lucked out, and I am so grateful. And now it's done.
And you're probably never going to have that experience again because you looked at it that way from a metaphysical point of view. I'm not a doctor, but from a metaphysical point of view.
Exactly.
You had the experience, so why haven't it again?
Right. So if you learn your lesson, you get to check off the box. If you have you're done. Kind of like getting through geometry, right? Oh, let's get through this. We don't have to repeat it. Or finance. Hated finance. But yeah, if you check off the box, you don't have to repeat it. I've got a client who refuses on his 5th lifetime to check off the box on a certain lesson. And each time it comes around harder and harsher and more severe, he just won't do it. He's like, I'm just going to get off the merry-go-round. It's like, you can't do that. That's not an option. Well, if I kill myself, it's like, then you come back and do it again. Would you like to come back and do it again?
Probably harder, usually.
Harder, yes, much harder.
More difficult.
Yes, it's his 5th lifetime and he just won't do it. So, okay. And until he does it, he's not moving up to anything else. If you have lessons that keep repeating themselves, buckle down and do it. Kind of like taxes, right? You got to buckle down and do it. Once it's done, it's done. Check off that box, right? So, yeah, I mean, and if you find yourself saying, why does this always happen to me? You ever said that? That's your lesson.
So many of us have.
Yeah, there's your lesson. You need to figure out what that lesson is. I had another time, I don't know if this is on the subject or not, but I got into a tiff, as we do sometimes in public, with a person. And it really bothered me. And it was over and everything was fine. And it didn't end well, but okay. I mean, it happens, right? We're all human. And that's one thing you need to remember is we're all human. You're going to get upset. The things are going to happen. And that's okay. But it kept coming up and kept coming up. It kept me awake at night. I kept thinking about it. Why am I still thinking about this? This is over. This is done. It's done. What's going on? Finally, Spirit went, where's your lesson? And I went, oh my gosh, I'm not getting a lesson out of this. I'm just getting mad. And so I said, okay, what's my lesson? And I said, okay, first of all, I need to forgive myself because I wasn't very nice. I'm one of the reasons I'm an entity doctor. I'm a bit of a hard tushy. I need to forgive myself and I need to forgive the other people. As soon as I did that, I stopped having this loop in my head rehashing the unpleasantries that had gone down. So, and a lot of it's about what's your relationship with you, not with other people. Well, that guy wronged me. I'm a victim. No, you're not. You're getting a lesson. Are you going to take it? Or are you just going to have to repeat it again? Let's not do that. That's no fun.
That's where the word wisdom pops up in our culture, is accepting our responsibility for events. Even if we were the victim, somebody beat the crap out of us just because they were mad at somebody else. It's still, we agreed to allow that person on our journey to have that experience and then let it go. But at the same time, we learned responsibility and acceptance. And we karmically, maybe the doctors in the ER, we had some karma with them. So they took care of us and we allowed that. Everything can get really deep and really complicated, but it's like, okay, I don't need to do that again, but I can share the story. I can tell someone else, you don't need to walk down that alley. There's some very nice people very bad people that live at the other end or whatever it is. You just don't need to do that. We can share experiences in ways that others cannot as human beings.
Perfect.
And I think that scares a lot of people too. Yeah. But everything that happens with us, from a flat tire in the middle of nowhere and there's no AAA call, there's a reason for that. I've had 2 times in my life, I've had drivers show up that I did not see on the road, did not hear them on the road, and all of a sudden, boom, they were there. And one took me home, all the way home, as close to home as I would allow them to take me, because I learned don't do that a long time ago. And so that was already a previous lesson. But the other one changed my tire and followed me for 25 miles to a service station that could take care. And
they're angels. Yep. They're human angels.
But all of a sudden, they were there. And I wondered for years, and I still do, because one of the guys said, well, I don't live very far from here. He was driving a yellow convertible that I had never seen before, and I never saw again. But he said he didn't live very far from there. I don't think he did. I think he was indeed angelic of some sort. The other one, yeah, he said he was passing through, and and when he said it and the way he said it, I thought, yeah, you are. You're passing through. It was like he was looking for people to help. The public may not understand that, but there really are angels out there that kind of watch for people that need help. And I think I was on his radar that day.
Perfect.
Which was kind of cool. But you do a lot of work upon request. You do work where it's needed, and you use your good judgment about how to share your abilities with. Are you teaching classes right now?
I'm not right now, but I'm thinking about doing some videos. I do classes on how to communicate with your spiritual team, your guides and angels, who they are, why you need them, why it's important to communicate with them, why it's important to listen to them. I can do classes.
Teach people how to listen, because a lot of people don't know how to listen.
Right. And yes. the logic part, you got to let go of the logic part. If there's something that's overriding that logic part, don't do it. Don't do the logic. A lot of people want me to teach how to remove entities, and let me tell you why I don't.
Okay.
My guides and angels are ironclad. They don't let anything bother me. If I do get attachments, I do, because they don't like me and they want to attack me. Let's face it, you always want to attack the leader of the opponent, right? But I don't feel people are able to properly protect themselves. And the last thing I want to do, that scene in Jurassic Park where they've got that goat tied to the tree and here comes the dinosaur, I don't want to leave my students like that they're not goats tied to trees. I want to make sure that they can handle whatever. I have taught some people how to do lost souls, but lost souls won't leave until the underworlds are gone. So we have to do it in conjunction with each other. And then when you get into the higher ones, definitely not. So and I met a couple of shamans last fair who said, well, I can close the portal. I said, that's great. You close the portal. I'll take care of the entities that are there. And they were like, well, maybe we can do that. I'm like, no, this is a higher up one. You don't want to go there. And they went, okay, we don't want to go there because this stuff is not easy. It's not pleasant. It's not, it's definitely worth satisfying to help people, but it's not an easy work. People are like, well, you're just sitting there doing this, and it's like, no, actually, I'm in a different dimension battling demons. So you kind of have to go up into the ethers and get out of your body to do this work. So it's a whole lot of stuff going on. And again, I want to make sure people are ironclad, that they know what they're doing, that they can stay clear. And they're like, well, just teach me to just clear myself. And it's like, it's kind of the same thing. So we just can't do that for you. It's not that I want to hang on to the business. That's not it at all. It's the fact that I don't want you to be the goat tied to the tree and have all these entities coming, can I get you? Because then you really call Cindy and go, I don't know what's going on. I had that.
When we put off that kind of negativity, do you think we've agreed at some point before we ever came back to have that experience?
I think it's different for a lot of people. Okay, so for some people, I'm going to back way up. I'm sorry. I'll take you. We're going to go around the band here. We all have. Okay, so when you were in college and when you were in high school, you had a transcript and you had to take math and you had to take English, you had to take speech, and you had to take sociology and psychology and all like this. Okay, you had to get all those boxes checked off. Same thing with lives. We all have to be the pauper. We all have to be the king. We all have to be the prince. We all have to be, the murderer, the murderee. We all have to be the victim. We all have to be the person who's doing the perpetrating. So, and it depends upon how we live those lives. We know we have to be there. We know we have to be this person. And so when you look at people and judge them and go, why are they like that? That's just awful. And instead of doing that, maybe we could say, oh, I'm really sorry you have to go through that this lifetime. I hope you check it off and don't have to repeat it again. Okay?
I like that.
So let's not judge people too harshly. We kind of get caught up in our three-dimensional ways of thinking about things and judging people. And sometimes that's just not fair. When you fly up to the 10,000-foot level and go to the angels and go, what is this about? And they'll explain it to you. You're like, that makes sense now. Okay, I get it. So maybe those people were a little closer to the dark in their dark areas. Maybe they have had a lot of run-ins with some bad things. And so they kind of get this energy within their soul, because let's face it, you are your soul. You are not your body. And these things are attracted to you a little bit more. And so entirely process it. So somebody who's very, very young, they were only on up to their 10th lifetime. They generally don't get entities because they're so connected to the other side still that they're well protected. They don't get any entities. It's like standing in the middle of a hurricane and not getting wet. It's amazing. I see it sometimes. Other times people just keep attracting them, just like a person who has very low tolerance, spiritual tolerance or physical tolerance or whatever. They keep getting them there. So why is that? Maybe they had a unfinished lifetime that they're still kind of processing. Now, let me tell you about a bubble twist. I'll tell you what a bubble twist is. I discovered this one. Oh my goodness. What a bubble twist is, people come to me and go, I was a high priest. I was a high priestess. And it's like, good for you. So was I. Who wasn't, right? Now, if you're a high priest of the dark entities, the dark arts, shall we say, the bad things, you are worshipped by the underworlds and their higher ups, and they honor you as one of their lords and this and that. When those humans die, they don't want to go to the astral plane. They don't want to go to the light. They don't want to have anything to do with it. That is kind of like, that's not going to happen. So what they do is they take your soul, think of your soul as a balloon, okay? And they do a little twist and make a mother-in-law room in there. And that's where they stay. So this is you. This is them. You don't know they're there. You don't know who they are, what they've done, or why they're there, or whatever. But they are still giving off that powerful dark energy. And as a result, all of these underworlds and the higher-ups from there are all honoring the god or the goddess or the priestess, whatever. So they're honoring this little mother-in-law room that you've got, and you're running around going, what is going on for me? Why does this happen? Oh my gosh. Not understanding that that little mother-in-law room is there. Now, I have been able to clear that on 3 people up to 3 years old. I have found it on people older, and they're like, please help me. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, you're 20. There's nothing I can do for you. It's there. It's established. It is what it is. Okay. Nobody can call me next incarnation before you're 3, and I will help you out. Right. Who knows who I'll be. But, so that's another reason that happens. So we can't really say this is why this happens. You always get a cold because you have low vitamin C, whatever, who knows what. So that's one of the reasons. Another thing that will help people get infested really quickly is running around going, they're going to do that to me. Oh my God, what's happening? Something's going to get on me. If I go into this grocery store, I'm going to get an entity. And again, you're putting out that energy. Like, I'm going to get sick. 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 Guess what happens? You get sick. Why? Because that's the energy you're putting out. So the people who are paranoid all the time. I have one client. She's a sweet lady. She's very talented. She's very high vibrational, but she's like a pit bull. You took my body. And obviously she's playing in the negative entities. Why? She's putting off negative energy. What do they eat? Negative energy. Okay. So be careful about what you do, how you're doing that. And let me tell you, I'm not telling you this is easy. I'm not telling you this is quick. I'm not telling you, just change the way you think. It's fine. That's hard, isn't it? We're humans. We are trained to think a certain way. We've always thought a certain way. And let's face it, humans are trained to complain. How was your day, dear? Oh, well, this happened and that happened and this happened. It was great because I had this for lunch and this is wonderful. And then somebody gave me a candy. And we don't say that. We only focus on the negative stuff. That's how you can help yourself, is by stop focusing on the negative stuff. Start appreciating what happened or what you have, and start living your life in that attitude of gratitude. When I go to sleep at night, I say, angels, thank you so much for a beautiful day. I don't care if I just went to the grocery store and petted the dog. I don't care. I mean, it was a beautiful day. I was healthy. I was happy. I was around my animals. I got to work. I was able to work. I got to help people. It was fabulous. And then when I wake up in the morning, it's angels, thank you for a beautiful day that's about to come. What am I doing? I'm setting my intention, right? I'm putting out the energy I want. How long does it take to say thank you, angels? That's all the payment they ever get is thank you, angels. They don't get bonuses or trips or, luxury cars. They just get thank you. I love you. I appreciate you being there for me and watching out for me.
That's important to realize. Angels and spirits and whatever people call them, that's all they do get is the satisfaction of appreciation. That's it. And half the time we don't even know they're there, so we can't even thank them. So when we say thank you, we're saying it to thin air without really realizing who's going to catch that thank you.
You can feel their love. Yeah. You feel that love. Another thing about angels, we need to be very important because we have free will. We talked about that. Angels are not allowed to give you anything you don't directly ask for. Okay. I was teaching a class on how to communicate with the angels the other day. A guy raised his hand and he said, there's parking angels. It's like, okay, well,
yes,
actually they're your angels, but they handle parking too. So if you leave for the grocery store, now, not when you're turning into the parking lot, when you leave, you say, angels, please find me a close place to park at the grocery store, right? And you leave it at that. You don't have to repeat it every night, every day on the way. You don't just ask them once. When you get to the grocery store, guess what's going to happen? You're going to go down that aisle, go, oh man, this is all full. And then there's somebody in the very first space going to be pulling out right in front of you.
Yeah, that's happened.
Yep, it happens. It does happen. So, and when it does happen, what do? Thank you, angels. Thank you, angels. I used to run down the road. My mom was 94. I'd run down the road every time I hit a green light. Thank you, angels. Thank you, angels, because I don't want to have to stop and sit in traffic, right? So my mom picked it up, 94 years old. Thank you, angels. Thank you, angels. She's so cute.
What was it like for your parents raising you? Because you popped out of this really early in your life. I know you did.
No, I didn't. I was
You did it your own way. They knew something was different about you. So,
Different is a very good word for me.
You didn't walk out. What was it like for your mom? You said that you got to travel with her.
Yeah. Later in life. Yeah. When I was in my 40s and 50s. We got along really well. My mom was fabulous. She decided when I hit my 20s that she didn't need to mother me anymore, which was great. And I don't think she really appreciated mothering somebody anyway, because she would rather just let them do their thing and let her do her thing. She always had the trips all planned out. You know, they're going to take us here and there, and we're going to do this, we're going to see that. And I'm like, great, you know, this is fabulous. So for our very first trip together was to Russia. And our very first day, we were standing in the middle of Red Square going, oh my God, this is surreal. Holy cow, you know. So, I mean, she was always wonderful, wonderful. She let me be who I wanted to be. She encouraged us to be our own person and think for ourselves. My brother's a percussionist, and he studied with a lot of really good drum teachers at Indiana University School of Music. I wanted to be a ballerina. She drove me to ballet come sleet, snow, rain. I had to be there. I didn't care. I had to go every day, except nobody taught on Sundays. And so I was just so devoted to my art and she encouraged it, you know. And I got to my grandfather willed me a cello. I started playing the cello, and I got to the point where I had to focus on one or the other. My orchestra teacher was never so insulted when I chose ballet. It was funny. But, you know, she gave us cello lessons and drum lessons and tennis lessons and swimming lessons. And, you know, I mean, she was always there for us, allowing us to be who we were. And one of the things she said that sticks with me to this day, that sticks with you too, and you tell your children, there's nothing you cannot set your mind to and achieve.
Right. We're not always given a Pavarotti voice, but that doesn't mean we can't enjoy the music that we can make with our vocal cords, whatever that is. Not everybody was intended to be Grammy winners and famous dancers. And of course, my generation was Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly. There are probably a lot of people out there. If you haven't seen them dance, you must see them dance.
Must. Oh, yeah. They are
one very athletic, the other one very suave.
Yes.
Suave. They say. I see the picture behind you.
That was my mother. Yep, that's my mother.
Your mother?
That's my mom when she was in her 20s. She made that skirt, and she took ballet. She actually met my dad in Korea after the war, and she taught a lady ballet, and the lady taught her Korean dancing. So they bartered and they traded, and it was pretty cool. So
what a lovely experience.
So she was a PhD in economics, but she was also a singer. And so she did her dissertation on the economics of the performing arts and the composing arts. She did a correlation analysis on composers' education versus their success, and found out that composers don't have to have a higher education to be successful. So all you composers out there, keep going. You're doing great.
I think the Grammy winners would probably agree with you on that. Yeah. I like your mother. I'm sorry I didn't get to meet your mother.
Thank you. My brother calls her a Renaissance woman because she was a soccer field soccer and tennis. She almost became professional tennis. She was a singer. She was all kinds of different things. She did everything. She was amazing. So she was
that's where you get your genes about, I can do what I want to do.
Pretty much.
I can do it. Yeah.
Well, that and my dad, he was a colonel. Nobody stood in his way. Nobody. It was funny because the IRS once told him, because my mother taught about 2 hours from her home, and so she had to commute back and forth, and they were deducting the mileage and everything like this. And the IRS told him, I'm sorry, you are not married anymore. You are legally separated. You don't tell the colonel he's legally separated from a woman he's not really ready to be separated from. They are the first individuals to sue the IRS.
And win, I hope.
No, unfortunately not. But There was a law professor who wanted to be set precedents with that. So he took the case pro bono and took it all the way to the Supreme Court. But they are the first private individuals to sue the IRS. So I come from hardy stock. I'm sorry.
Congratulations for the effort.
Thank you. Thank you.
They set an example.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Our family doesn't get pushed around too much. But one thing you asked about was what qualified me to be an entity doctor. And I think it's because one of the things is I've been a warrior in so many lifetimes. Let's face it, we've all been soldiers. We've all died in war. It's just, I mean, there's so many wars, there's so many soldiers, there's so many deaths. So we've all done that. But I was a gladiator. I can kind of remember that lifetime. I was a great big blonde dude, and I was very theatrical. And I mean, my calves had to be like, that big. But and I got all the women, and I was like the rock star of the gladiator world for a while, and nobody could beat me because I was smart, and I like to play to the audience. So that's one thing that qualifies me to be the hard tushy of a entity doctor that I am. And you have to be very tenacious
and strong to stand up to.
Yeah.
Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, some of these entities can be pretty bullish.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, especially the higher up ones, yeah.
Yeah.
I say the higher up ones, I call them Karelians. And if you Google Karelians, you'll just get the people who live in Karelia, Russia, who find Shungite forests. They're nice people. They're not the same ones. But they can be the power between 8 and 15 underworlds. So you get 2 or 3 of those, and you've got a mess on your hands. I do describe Karelians in my book, Becoming the Entity Doctor. So if you're interested in knowing more about how to raise your vibration or about entities that are out there, that's a good place to start. And again, if you are starting out on your spiritual path, definitely get yourself checked for entity attachments, because that's what's going to hold you back and get frustrated. I have people who are just absolutely loaded with entities. They have so many on them. Oh my God, we have to get this clearing down as quickly as possible. And they're like, well, I'm trying to be as positive as I can. And I'm like, okay, well, that's trying to win a race through a lake that's mud up to your knees. You can't get any traction. You can't get any momentum. You can't get going. So again, you need to get those cleared off, and then you're on dry land. Now you can run.
We've used the word getting off of the body. What about clearing our homes, clearing our workspace? How does that different, or is it different for you as a person who does this as a profession?
I will do homes. I will do, I don't do public buildings. Somebody said, check my work in my church. And I'm like, no, that's not going to do it. Because there's so many different people that go in there. There's so many different things that can be in there. But for your home, for your family, for your automobile, absolutely, definitely. Now, imagine that we all have a fragrance that we put off, okay? And all these entities have a fragrance that they put off. Now, they don't have to be on you for you to smell them, right? They don't have to be on you for you to feel their negative energy. So if I check you and say, okay, you don't have any entities attached to you, but they're all over your house, guess what? You're going to be affected by them because they're all over your house. There are all kinds of things that can happen with the land. People they call me, they're like, well, it's impossible. It's my house. It's a new house. It just got built. I said, really?
Yeah.
How long has the land been there? And
what else has been built or held on this land?
Exactly. I find all kinds of weird stuff. Let's take the Middle East. There have been so many negative things that have happened on that land through the 5 comings of man, not just this one, not just since the Neanderthals, whatever, but thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. And Gaia absorbs that energy. So that's why they can't get along over there. They just have all this negative energy oozing out of the earth and making everybody upset. Get that fighting mechanism going within them. That's why they fight so much, not because they're bad people. They're just people that are being affected by the energy of the land. I've also found something interesting. It's called a blanket. And I always ask about blankets, both on people and on land. When I first found a blanket, I found that, let's take Texas, because Texas has flown under 6 different flags. So we've seen a lot of fighting here. Let's say that the area where you live used to be a internment camp for prisoners of war. Okay. So they made this barrier, right? And they put all the prisoners there. So what are the prisoners feeling? They're feeling forlorn. They're feeling unloved. They can't get to their families. They can't find any love. They can't participate in what they believe in. They can't fight for their cause any longer. They can't do anything. So what happens is not just one, but the entire camp of these prisoners feel this sadness, this blanket of sadness, and it kind of converges and works together. Okay. So all of a sudden, this entire area is saturated with this blanket of sadness and this blanket of feeling unavailable and unloved. You can't stand up for your principles any longer. So what happens in this blanket is it works like flypaper. And so when these prisoners pass away, their souls get stuck to that flypaper, that blanket, okay, of sadness. Not only that, but anything else that happens along the path also gets stuck like flypaper, okay, on this blanket of sadness. So you've got all these lost souls putting off this negative energy because they're stuck and they're sad and they're surrounded by this blanket of sadness. So what comes along? Ooh, smorgasbord. Yum, let's eat these guys. Okay. So now all of a sudden, you've got this whole area where they're open game. And so the underworlds come and they start attacking these lost souls that are stuck down. And the lost souls, of course, can't run. They can't do anything. So you get this whole turbulent energy. Can you see it? No. Can you feel it? Maybe. Oh, let's go look at this house. This is a great neighborhood, That was a blanket of sadness. And so what I have to do is I have to clear the entire blanket off. I can't like take a postage stamp and like a cookie cutter thing and do that. I have to do the whole blanket. And then what we do is we fill the entire place with love. And so hopefully that's going to turn around not only you, but all your neighbors as well. I had to do that quite recently. I did an entire neighborhood and got rid of everything that was there, but only one person paid me, which is fine because it wasn't that big of a lot of work. So, and then you have areas.
That's got to be exhausting for you.
It is hard. Yeah, it's hard. There are also areas where it's very hard to clear because like we have a area down here, it's called Dripping Springs, and it's on Texas is all on this area is on a plate of limestone. It's like a big shelf, limestone shelf. Okay. Then there's an aquifer, which means there's water. So not only can the energy go through the limestone shelf, you add water and they're like, it's a racetrack. Zoom. So people call me from Dripping Springs and they say, I think my house is haunted. And it's like, yeah, I know your house is haunted.
What's not?
Yeah. But again, to get that cookie cutter's postage stamp thing on this whole area is very, very difficult. And it's very difficult to clear. And of course, for that, you can't clear. What are you going to do? Dry up the aquifer? Well, Mother Nature's doing a pretty good job of that. But we need our water. We need to have some drinking water here in Austin, in Texas. So it's hard. So things can be around you and not on you, and affect you very, very deeply. You're gonna know. Okay, I'm gonna say the word energy vampire, and you're gonna think of your work and go, I know who that is. Okay. So there are people that are energy vampires. What they're trying to do is they're trying to suck your energy out of you, suck your energy out of you, suck your energy out of you. And you can say, whenever I meet with this person, I'm just exhausted. Guess why? They're sucking all your energy out of you.
Yeah.
So the way to combat an energy vampire is cross your ankles, not your knees, your ankles, and hold your tall man and your thumb together, and you can cross your wrists and get those between you and the energy vampire, and they're not going to be able to suck on your energy. Okay. Now,
consciously or otherwise. Yeah.
Yes. So,
Great trick.
This way, and then the ankles. And hopefully that's going to keep them away from you. So they'll find somebody else's energy to suck on. But everybody in the office is going to say the same thing. Whenever I'm with Shirley, I'm just exhausted. She just exhausts me. So I don't know what Shirley's.
There are some people that are just so high energy. They hit the floor with roller skates on, and they talk fast, and they think fast, and they react quickly and appropriately. But that's their level. and you can't slow them down.
Right.
And some of us are not capable of getting to that level. So that can also be an unintentional vampire of energy. But I've worked with people like that in the corporate world, and you just leave their presence, maybe feeling happy and joyful because that's how they are, but at the same time, exhausted
Yes. Yes.
because you feel like you've been run over by a ton truck.
Right. I always say you're talking faster than I can listen. You've got to slow down.
Yeah.
New
Yeah,
Yorkers,
I do that.
I can't deal with it. They
I
speak
had
way
to
too
tell a
quick.
client that not long ago, slow down. And the more we would work, she'd give her, and I'd say, whoa, I couldn't understand those last, I think, 3 sentences. Oh, I'm sorry. And she'd slow down for a little while. And we went through this for for an app. She just could not help herself. Bless her heart. And she laughed in there and she'd giggle but I couldn't understand her. Couldn't understand her. I'd have to make her repeat. And she was just the opposite with me. Her
Oh,
mind was going so quickly that
she couldn't
she
listen that
didn't
slowly.
hear. She couldn't listen that slowly, right? And several times while we were on, I said, "You haven't turned your recorder off, have you?" No, no, no. Okay, good. Because I knew she'd have to listen to that at least 5 times before she got the reading. So it
Right.
works both ways. But I talked to her a couple of days later and she said, "I was so tired after you and I talked." I said, "Honey, I didn't talk, you did." We joked about it. Of course I did, but we joked about it and finally figured out why. But she said, "I was just so tired when we hung up." Well, she'd been anticipating the reading. And then when it started, it was just like she just couldn't talk and say what she needed to, and she couldn't hear it all at the same time, and she hadn't heard enough to ask another question. So we ended up doing a follow-up.
That's good.
She
There's a
made
lot.
a list of questions, but it goes right along with that vampirism when it's not intentional versus when it is.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
it's the same. It's the good stuff sometimes, and I loved visiting with her. We had a great time. It ended up being she got what she needed. She didn't know it at the time, but but she did. So it was good. But that will happen too, public. That will happen too. So
Yeah.
it's not always the negatives
Right.
that get you.
Well, along
I'm
the same line, what I found is areas where your energy is going to be more conducive to certain areas than other areas, okay? And other people's energy is going to be conducive to the other areas and not your areas. So I was studying with one woman here in Austin, and she was like, "I hate Austin. I just hate it. I can't stand it here. It's just a mess." So she moved to Vegas. And I hate Vegas. I mean, it's just really not my energy. She loved it there. Her energy was very compatible there. Okay. So be careful where you move. I had one lady who moved from New South Wales, Australia, and she moved up to Philadelphia. And her energy was not working there at all. And she said, "Well, do you think I just shouldn't be in the United States?" And I said, "Did you just hear me say the United States is 3,000 miles wide and 2,000 miles deep? There's somewhere you can be, okay? But Philadelphia is not your area." And so she moved to Dallas and loved it. Again, I'm not a Dallas kind of a girl, but too big of a city for me, but that's okay. She loved it. And so if your energy is not working in a certain area, you need to be careful and figure something else out. Now, when somebody says, I'm thinking about moving to New Mexico, or I'm thinking about moving to North Carolina, whatever. I say, you need to go and visit. And I don't mean a day or two. I mean a couple of weeks. Anybody can survive a day or two, even in a hotel, which is scary. But if you go for a couple of weeks, you really get the energy of the land there. And I have a service where if somebody's thinking about buying a house or moving, they can contract me to match their energy to the energy of the house, to send me the address, and I can do 1 or I can do 3. I have a special for 3. And then I match your energy to the energy of the house. I was doing that for a client one time, and I accidentally hit the maps. And I'm like, that's not what I wanted. I wanted the picture of the building, and I looked at the map, and the house was like 2 blocks from the dump, the landfill. I know she lived, yeah, nobody wants to live in a landfill. It's stinky, right? So I said, no, this is not
loud.
Yeah. Oh, and loud too. Okay. And she didn't realize that. So again, my angels pulled out my map for me. That's not where my mind, my logic was going. I was going to look at the house and kind of tune into my client, tune into the house and go, okay, is this a match or is this not a match? And they pulled up the map and went, no, this is too close to the dump. She doesn't want to be there. So again, that's another service that I offer, is matching your energy. And I know we've all dated people where our energies were just fabulous together. We've all dated people where our energies were just really not working. So the same thing happens with the land. Okay. So it's not you. It's fine. And if your spouse loves it there and you don't, you need to find a place that's conducive to both y'all, because it's important that you're both comfortable and happy and relaxed.
Absolutely. I've had people call me and say, should I? And of course, I use cards. So I usually throw a yes or no, and we get the reason why and why not. But I don't tell people where to go live, because if that's from my end, if that's, they need to have those experiences. Like your lady went to Philadelphia, there's a reason for her to be there, even if it was for one day or 6 months or whatever. There was a reason. I call them stopovers. It was a stopover, even though it may have been a very expensive one on her end to get settled. There's a reason.
Yeah.
She got to know herself better.
It involved a marriage and a divorce. So yeah, it was very expensive for her.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah. But I'm so glad that there is a service like yours that you can do up front. Should I not? Am I off here? You know, where am I going?
Right.
Of course, so much, unfortunately, because of our weather, we're about to lose Florida from a geographic point of view, or it's what I find with this last series of storms, really bad storms that have gone through there, is that part of Florida is already shut down. It's a little bit like Venice, where houses are underneath the water. And if you think of Florida down to the point, this is where I saw this documentary. Starting at the point and moving in, there are cities that are still covered by water that they're not talking about, that are sealed off, so to speak. You can't go any further, but they're not telling people, the new generations, that I'm sure the locals know. You know, you go deep diving and you see a house down there, you're going to wonder what's going on. But there literally are areas that in Florida that are already covered up, right, that nobody can live on. And some in California, there are small islands that are no longer visible.
Louisiana too, yeah.
Yeah. And every time I see a bad storm, both of my grandsons are in Florida. Oh. One's retired military out, and the other one is he's still in. But both were Air Force. The younger one is still in the Air Force. They know about those places. The locals know, but people aren't talking about that. We have American Venices. I said that wrong. You know what I'm trying to say. And they're not bringing attention to that.
Right.
We are losing our land on the shorelines, and people aren't talking about it. I find that interesting.
Look at Greece. They keep finding places underwater that used to be, right at the water's edge. And
right.
Yeah. Well, I find an interesting situation with somebody who was they were thinking about buying this house, and they were having me check the property. And I found a blanket, but it wasn't a blanket of sadness. It was a blanket of chaos. And the reason that the people were selling the house is because they were getting divorced. So just like land can pick up energies, houses can do that as well. So what I tuned in, and I found out, not the last owners, but the owners before, this woman had 4 children. And she had all of her 4 children scheduled to the max. And she was mom's taxi, mom's fast food, everything. I mean, she was just always chauffeuring kids around, and she was going blah, 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 all the time. Blah, 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 I got to get Jimmy there, and we got to have a performance. Blah, 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 blah. And she just kept going and going and going and going and going. And so the house absorbed that energy of chaos, right? This whirlwind she lived in. And so they sold the house to this couple. Well, this couple was living in this blanket of chaos, not realizing, why are we so turbulent all the time? Why is this energy always whirling around us? Why are we always fighting? What's going on? Well, I don't like you anymore either, so I want a divorce, right? So they got a divorce, and they sold the house to my client. My client's like, okay, what's going on with this house? I'm going, okay, here's the deal. We need to remove this blanket of chaos and we need to replace it with a blanket of love. That's really important. So we did. To the best of my knowledge, she's still married and she still has kids and they're still doing fine. So everything works. So be careful the energy you're putting out, because it doesn't only affect you, it affects your home, it affects your family, it affects the earth, Gaia, the earth. And I have a meditation I love to do. What I do is I take all my love and my respect and my honor, my laughter, my joy, my happiness, and I put it all on my chest. Then I push it down and out the bottoms of my feet where there are very long virtual legs attached to virtual feet standing on the core of the earth, that metal core that keeps our earth together. And I just push all of that loving energy down into Gaia. I push all that loving energy down, down, down into her, feeding her, appreciating her, respecting her, giving her happiness. That feels really, really good. As a matter of fact, I have a meditation on my website at comestandinthelight.com under Crystal Shop. It has meditations, and you can get that one there. I think it's $2. I think it's 6 minutes. So you can do it on your lunch hour. It's great. It's called the Love Meditation. I also have a chakra balancing meditation. It's only $8, and you can balance your chakras either quickly. There's one that does it like 11 minutes, and then there's one long 30-minute where you lie down, luxuriate, balance all your chakras, and you feel so wonderful when you get up. So it's a case of spiritual fitness can make you feel so good and make the physical and the emotional fitness a whole lot easier. So it all works together. We're not just spiritual people, not just physical people, not just emotional or mental people. We are the whole package. Okay, so we've got to work on all of it.
Thank you for tuning into The Conversations with the Ancients, where we take you on a journey where you'll hear voices of metaphysicians from the past, as well as today's spirit mediums, healers, and others who show you a side of the paranormal you've never seen before. Remember to visit our website at conversationswiththeancients.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on Conversations with the Ancients.